was walking home alone along the street at midnight. It was after a long day of work. On a summer evening. You may ask why so late and alone. Because she had such a schedule where she worked in a cozy cafe in a small, quiet town, as they say, until the last visitor. For this girl, this was already a common thing, and she was almost no longer afraid. All you had to do was run from the bus stop to the house. She walked with a hasty gait, her heels loudly clicking, along a deserted alley of low maples, as if along a dark corridor, where occasionally there was a glimmer of light from lonely street lamps. The girl was thinking about herself, and in one such glimpse, she saw the silhouette of a man and was terribly scared. If only he wasn't a maniac, she thought. When she came closer, she saw that it was an old woman. Then, hunched over, in black clothes and a black scarf on her head, from under which white hair stuck out, the grandmother stood under the lantern, not moving, just moving her eyes around. She looked straight at the girl, who for a moment thought that the old woman's eyes were glowing. Strange, what is this old lady doing alone on the street so late? Thought the girl, hurrying home as quickly as possible. The eerie feeling grew. The girl was already approaching the place where the old woman stood, having decided to go around her. If only she wouldn't cling to me, she thought, noticing that the old woman had a terribly ugly face. But the old woman immediately jumped up and went to meet the girl, and there was no one on the street, not a soul in silence. The old woman ran up, limping, and grabbed the girl's hand with her cold and bony hands. This made the girl shudder and goosebumps cover her body. "Take me home," the old woman wheezed, looking with sparkling eyes straight into the eyes of the young girl, and began to drag her by force to the side. The girl was taken aback by surprise and did not know what to do. Wait, Grandma, tell us in order. Where do you live? Where should I take you? How did you even end up here? Take me home," she kept repeating, digging her fingers into the girl's hand. "Tell me where to take you," the girl repeated in fear, but she didn't want to go anywhere, looking around, hoping for help. "I will show, over there." The grandmother dragged her to the side. She led the girl by the hand to the end of the dark street. There then began a vacant lot, and behind it a cemetery. But the girl was lucky that two police officers who were patrolling this street came out from around the corner. "How good, I'll give my grandmother to the police. Let them take her where she needs to go," she thought. She already wanted so much to get home as quickly as possible and forget the story, like a bad dream. "Police, police," the girl shouted, and the police headed towards her. "Why did you call them?" the grandmother wheezed with displeasure. "Let them take you home, that's their job, and I'm in a hurry." The grandmother let go of the girl's hand, who turned to face the approaching police. "What's happened?" the police said, shining a flashlight in his face. "Here's an old lady who's lost and asks to take her home, but I'm in a hurry. Could you take her home?" the girl told them, covering her face with her hand from the blinding flashlight. "Which old lady? Are you kidding?" said the young policeman. The girl turned around, but there was no one nearby. There is no trace of the old woman. She looked at the hand she was clinging to, and there was a bruise from her fingers. "Yes, right there. I was just standing here." The police shined their flashlights onto the vacant lot. They saw that the old woman was standing very far away, muttering something, clenching her fists and shaking her finger. They ran towards her, but she disappeared into the bushes. By the time they got there, there was no one there. The girl hurried towards her high-rise building. She was scared and hurried home without looking back. Her home had already appeared on the horizon, and she only had to take a couple of steps towards the entrance when the same old woman came out of the darkness and blocked her path. "I told you, take me home," the grandmother hissed. "Leave me alone. I won't take you anywhere," the girl screamed. The grandmother jumped up to her and wanted to grab her throat with her clumsy fingers, but the girl pushed her hard and quickly ran into the entrance. I jumped into the elevator and pressed the button for my floor. The elevator stopped and the girl ran to her door and started banging. The husband opened the door and the girl ran into the apartment. She told him everything that happened. He reassured his wife for a long time. She was too scared. Then he told her that people had seen more than once in the cemetery. At night, some gray-haired old woman in black clothes. She crawled on all fours among the graves and moaned. and her eyes glowed in the dark. Since childhood, I began to notice that certain categories of citizens react strangely to me. Even with moving for permanent residence to another country, nothing has changed. The gypsies, seeing me, begin to quicken their pace and lower their heads so low that they cannot see their faces. Having moved away to a decent distance, they look back after me, turning their curly heads, but with the mentally ill, it's exactly the opposite. It got to the point where my husband started abusing me. As soon as he sees a special person nearby, he will definitely pry. "Oh, look, your friend is coming." At first I was offended, but now I don't care. A friend is a friend. This action takes place like this. First the special one breaks into a smile, as if he saw his own mother, and then begins a conversation. Yes, as if we had been talking about something before and were interrupted. Even those who are aggressive calm down. One of them was throwing stones at my mother. He hated women. Then I came up, and he aimed another stone at my mother's head, and said to me in such a gentle voice, "Don't be afraid, I'm not into you, step aside." I had to tell her that this was my mother. The stone was sent into his pocket without reaching its goal. But there were a couple of times when seemingly calm special people lost their temper at the moment, trying to kill me, aiming exclusively at the head. I had to run from one such lady for half a day. Remembering this terrible incident, I began to be wary of the special ones. It was the same this time. Having gotten married again, she moved to her husband in his city, and at that time lived in the new place for 3 years. Everything was great for me. Plus I got a job in my specialty, primary school teacher. That day my lessons were over. The weather was sunny and warm. I got on the bus. There seemed to be not many people, but there were no seats. So I stood there, like a birch tree in a field, exposing myself to the rays of the sun and enjoying life. At the third stop, I noticed some unpleasant excitement among the passengers, and then a loud voice reached me from the very end of the accordion bus. At first I didn't pay all my attention to it, but then the speech began to be heard clearly. Then, my God, curses flowed like a river that I didn't even know about. It turned out that a crazy woman got on the bus, and she informed each passenger in turn not only about all the atrocities that had been committed, but also about those that had not yet been committed. The holy fool ended her monologue with a list of punishments, both in heaven and on earth for each individual. There was deathly silence on the bus. People pulled their heads into their shoulders and didn't even try to look around. Many turned crimson and experienced noticeable relief when they found themselves behind the crazy woman. But now I was worried. After all, it is impossible to determine in advance how this woman will perceive me. A list of sins will not intimidate me. The main thing is not to start rowing. Slowly but surely she was approaching me. Now a smart thought came to me. Why didn't I jump out at some stop? What were you waiting for? But then nothing like that even crossed my mind. My finest hour has come. Oh miracle. They looked me over from head to toe. A smile spread across my face, and in a joyfully cheerful voice, Madame gave out the catchphrase. "Oh, she's standing here alone, happy, and doesn't know anything." Instantly the general tension subsided, and one particularly stunned comrade, his turn never reached him, raised his voice. "Why is she happy? And she will soon live in another country, where it is always warm and a lot of sun, mountains and sea. She will live at sea, but all of you will not, and she will be happy. Much, much happiness, and she will get married and stay there forever." Looking into my face, she added affirmatively, "You won't come back here. You won't come back." Just then there was a stop, and the blessed one got off the bus with a smile on her face. Then it was the same as at school, when the teacher leaves the class for a minute in the middle of the lesson. From the general hubbub and noise, I only understood that many people knew her and that what happened now, good words addressed to me, was the first time. But that's not what worried me. I couldn't understand what it was. The people on the bus claimed that all her predictions were coming true. How right they were. Less than a year has passed since I found myself in Greece. It's always warm and a lot of sun, mountains and sea. Everything was as they promised me. She got married and has a son. Only how I ended up in Greece is another very scary story. And I think that crazy woman did the right thing by skipping all the details, essentially starting from the end.